I would put Deshaun Watson out there, and if and when he fails, then you go to Shedeur, and then if you have to, you can go to Dylan Gabriel. Like, it really doesn't matter at this point because your quarterbacks have to perform. And I think the Cleveland Browns realize they're going to be in the market for a quarterback in 2027. I think the fact that we're at this point right now, having gone through all spring, and now we're in the training camp, and we're talking about divvying up reps and one guy starting one game, the Browns don't have a quarterback that they feel confident in. But Todd Monken is right. Somebody's got to go out there and take snap one. And if you're a young football team and you've traded away Myles Garrett, maybe you go with Shedeur Sanders and say, we're going to go with a youth movement. Either way, I would probably, if it were me, I would start Watson and see what he has. And if and when that doesn't work, then you go all youth. You tell Watson, hey, you can go relax and sit in the cold tub. I'm going with Shedeur Sanders. And if that doesn't work, I'll go with Dylan Gabriel. And if that doesn't work, I'll call Dan Orlovsky and see if he can still throw the football. We're going to draft our guy in 2027 anyway.
But
make no mistake about it, to me, the real key to this defense is still intact, and it's Mike Macdonald and what he does schematically. Yeah, they lost some of those names we talked about in Kobe Bryant, Boye Mafe, Reek Woolen, which are great players, but I think they still have more than enough on this defense to be as good as they were a year ago because of Macdonald. Even Ward will be back into the lineup. They had Neal come in the draft, Bud Clark on the back end. So I think they have some really good replacements there, and I have no doubt, again, that Macdonald will reload and not have to rebuild.
Jeremy, one of the offensive changes that's been reported is the desire for Hurts to play more under center. What's Hurts thinking about that transition this year?
Well, Laura, Hurts feels like he's made great strides in this new offense, particularly with his footwork. He's been honing in on the details there. He says it's all about synchronizing. When his feet are synced up with his eyes when he's taking it from under center and dropping back, he can play freely and drive the ball. I spoke to OC Sean Mannion coming off the field. He said that footwork is one of the very first things that Hurts really dug in on and developed quickly as part of the new offense. That helped him look more at the big picture and figure out every down where the ball's supposed to go. Today, the ball went to Dontavian Wicks, who's a new receiver that the Eagles are really excited about. Hurts seems to have a good connection with him. They connected down the sideline on a deep pass today. And, with Devontae Smith being out, Mekhi Lemon out, both short-term hamstring issues, they'll be back. But for now, Wicks is really developing nicely. People around the Eagles are really excited about that player.
Yeah.
On a one-year deal worth up to $12 million. He had been talking to the Commanders. That was the place that made the most sense all along. The Chiefs weighed in, the Dolphins weighed in, the Raiders weighed in, but the fact of the matter is the Commanders were a team that had a need, had an opening, and they've been able to get together with Stephon Diggs to carve out a one-year deal that will bring him to Washington to complement Terry McLaurin and make him the newest target for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I love this fit, especially for the quarterback. We'll dive into that, but the addition of Diggs provides Jaden Daniels with a reliable target. Diggs caught nearly 83% of the passes.
So there's a lot of conversations about that kind of thing. You got, position battles going on. You have these high expectations in all these buildings. You know that all these head coaches in that opening meeting, you remember my opening meetings, we all started with, the white gloves on. You got the Lombardi, easiest way to make the playoffs, to get in the tournament is win the division, right? Then get to a championship game and then have a chance to hoist that Lombardi. So I love seeing all the stuff that's going on, watching the practices that are going on. I know everybody's excited to be back, but I'm going to tell you this too. The guys, the players, and the coaches, they're all looking for it. I know we got a game tomorrow, right?
Yes, it matters.
Panthers and Cardinals, so we got a game tomorrow. But I know all of them are looking forward to probably that first joint practice, go against another team, line up across from somebody else, hit somebody else in the mouth, not one of your own teammates, and kind of get an idea of where you're at. And, those joint practices, you guys have talked about them a lot. Very few players are playing anymore in the preseason games with only 3 of them. I know when you're in the Hall of Fame game, you get that extra game, so you get a chance to start a Carson Beck and a Kenny Pickett. You guys were talking about that, but, these joint practices, you get a chance. It's a controlled environment, so you can control the contact, the tackling to the ground, all those kind of things where you can't control that in a preseason game. So you get really good work in those joint practices. So I guarantee you they're all looking forward to that.
Man, it's I think Fred Warner, he jumps out right away because of I know he missed last season, but his ability to make plays in the passing game, affect the game, stopping a run, things like that. He's a guy that jumps out to me offhand. And you put me on the spot. I didn't have the opportunity to think about that, but Fred Warner is the guy that really jumps out to me.
London?
I can't confirm this. Jaden Daniels is looking awesome. He's healthier. Obviously, dealt with some injuries last season, but he looks phenomenal. Looks in great physical shape, but also in a great mental space. there's going to be a new offense that the Commanders will have this year. David Blah, he's the first-year offensive coordinator. Be a lot more under center for Jaden in this offense. A lot more play action. Use his athleticism, be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively out of from under center, and those should open up things in the passing game from Jaden. But he definitely looks phenomenal. Has a great command of his offense, even though it's early in training camp. And I'm looking forward to seeing him just continue to get better each day as this season progresses.
Marcus, Lamar has sung the praises of Flowers for so long. What do you make of the Flowers deal?
I'm happy that the Ravens have decided and figured out who their number one wide receiver is. Think about how many conversations, Boogie and MK, we've had about guys coming in. It's seemingly been a revolving door at wide receiver with them trying to figure out who that would be. They drafted Bateman a few years ago, thought he would turn into that, but kudos to Zay Flowers, man. And everybody knows how dynamic he is with the football in his hands. He is a short game to take it 99. He can get deep. He has made explosive plays, and that's what this offense had been missing, quite frankly, on the outside. So for them to reward him with this contract, but also based on his production and obviously the boost from Lamar Jackson saying that that's my guy.
Yeah. I think that this contract makes sense. I know folks see him next to like Justin Jefferson and there's a reaction. He's not as good as Justin Jefferson. Well, first of all, that wide receiver contract market is going to get reset fast. Puka Nakua's up. He's going to blow this out of the water. And this will look reasonable soon. It always happens. But then as far as Marcus, you made a good point about the production. The Ravens, it feels like they've constantly been looking for a boundary receiver to pair with Flowers. But since Flowers has been drafted, so last 3 years, he ranks 5th league-wide amongst all receivers in target share. He is the focal point of this Ravens offense. That's a big part of why they're paying him. And I'd also say this, in 2026, I know we think of a number one wide receiver as being that big-bodied X receiver, but with the way offense has evolved, play callers have gotten so good at finding ways to make guys like Flowers the focal point of the offense, using motion to get him free releases and space to operate in. And he's so shifty, so fast, the yards after the catch are there. So I do think while he is not your stereotypical number one, he is Baltimore's number one, and it makes sense that they paid him as such.
Marcus, we heard the players talking about Harbaugh there. Can a coach really change things that quickly?
Yes, they can. And I think the stability that this team has been looking for since Tom Coughlin is there. And John Harbaugh is a really, really good football coach. I was there. I had a cup of coffee with the Baltimore Ravens. I have a ton of respect for what he does at setting a culture and being a head coach before Isaac Newsom cut my sorry ass, and it was time for me to go. But I really enjoyed my time with him. I think he's going to do a lot for these young players. He's a former Super Bowl champion. He always is around the playoffs and going deep into the playoffs. And these young guys kind of need someone that can stand up in front of the room that gives you that belief that they know the way. And if you listen and you pay attention and you try to execute at the level in which John is going to expect them to, they will have a chance to be there in this division and have a chance to win football games. You got to get Jackson Dart to stop trying to bang his head against a brick wall. I know that's going to be difficult because that's the way he plays football. But ultimately, this team should benefit in a major way from having John Harbaugh. And that's why he was such a hot commodity when he was let go from the Baltimore Ravens by a bunch of organizations.
I mean, a lot of buzz about the Giants offense with their young playmakers. Good to see Malik Neighbors has been back out there. Seems like he's healthier. It feels like we've heard less, though, about this defense in New York. What do you make of that unit?
I think they should be improved, even with the loss of Dexter Lawrence, and that is a massive loss, literally a massive loss. But they did a few things I loved, one of which was to shore up the linebacker position, which is something, by the way, John Harbaugh knows the importance of, having good linebacker play coming from Baltimore. It was such a weakness for them last year, and a big part of why they were abysmal in run defense. The Giants have really, really talented pass rushers, but they're not big. Brian Burns, Abdul Carter. They need to be protected by linebackers. And now you go get Tremaine Edmonds, huge. Arvo Reese, very good tackler. I think that should help shore up the run defense, which was really like the failing of that defense last year. The pass rush was great. The problem was can't rush faster if you can't stop the run. So I do think that they're going to do much better at stopping the run this year, and that'll create opportunities for that pass rush, Marcus.
And MK, as you talk about that defense, you look at that linebacker core. The one thing Harbaugh has been known for, too, wanting with his defense is speed. And all of those linebackers can run. They can get sideline to sideline. How fast they diagnose, how fast they get to the football is going to be paramount. But when you start talking about athletes that can move around in space, that can find the football, and how they will probably swarm because that's the culture that he's setting, this defense should be markedly improved. Now,
they have some offenses that they're going to have to deal with. They're going to have to deal with Dak and George Pickens and obviously CeeDee Lamb and Saquon Barkley. We'll see what this new offense is in Philadelphia and if Jaden Daniels is healthy as well. So you better have something you bring into the party on that side of the football with dealing with these quarterbacks and offenses that you're going to have to face.
Okay, A.J. Brown coming off his fourth straight 1,000-yard season, but his numbers took a step back last year. He averaged career lows in yards per reception, yards per route run, and yards per target in his final year in Philadelphia. After finishing second in yards per target in 2024, he slipped to 16th in the league last season. So, Amina, what needs to happen for Brown in this offense to put up big numbers this fall?
Yeah, well, I think the revamping of the wide receiver groups, and not just Brown, but the addition of Romeo Doubs, which I think is one of the most slept-on additions of any team, is not only going to keep this passing attack operating at a high level like it did last year, I think it's going to open up opportunities on the ground. As good as the Patriots' offense last season was, they were not balanced.